Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Thursday? I think today's Thursday. I'm pretty sure today's Thursday. I hope today's Thursday because it's time for a new FL Studio Basics tutorial. This one is going to be about the love filter. I bet you've heard that before. So, what is the love filter? Well, let's go to a default preset so we can talk about it. The love filter is basically a detached version of Citrus's filter modules. It's sort of designed in the same way. It's got these tabs here, which are individual parameters, and then it has these tabs at the bottom, which are modifiers that you can apply to the parameters. It also has the input options that Citrus does sort of in a roundabout way, because Citrus has the matrix view, but also has the sort of next and output settings that are also included in the filters, which are handy. But this is a effects module, which means you can use it on anything else. This kind of thing. Not only that, but it also has 8 filters and not just 3. So, what is this and how does it do its thing? So, like I said up here, it has 8 individual filter units, kind of thing, and on all of them, they have an in and an out. I mean, they have filters too, but let's talk about the in and out for a second, just so we can see how routing works. You turn the filters on. See, they're not by default. None of them are on, but number 1 is on, and it is by default has a set input volume and it has set output volume. And it's going straight out. Well, we have other options. We have output panning, just panning left and right, and then we also have a next option. So what this does is it sends it to the next filter. Now you can have that on, and you can have output off in the sense that filter number 1 is no longer outputting to the out, to like the master out. It's outputting straight into number 2, which is not on. So we have to turn it on, and then you see we have input volume. Now you'd think that input volume means that that's how it's going to be whatever's going out into number 2, but it's actually the input volume is overall input volume. It's master input volume. So it's audio that's being input into the filter. So if I say don't want the master input, but I do want filter 1, I'll turn input volume off. And now I have input going into number 1, and then it's being chained into number 2 directly, and nothing else. That's how that works. And that's true for the rest of these, up to number 8, where there is no next because there's nothing after number 8. So we also have solo options for if you want to solo individual filters to see what you're doing, because you may have forgotten. In the actual filter settings, we have a number of filters available to us. If we right-click the list, we get the whole list. They're based on food, because chocolate state variable is this SVF thing, and what this basically is that we actually have 3 filters in one. We get a low, a band, and a high, and these are pretty sweet. Now you may have noticed that this low, band, and high business exists in the tabs, and you might be thinking, oh, so this is the cutoff value for each individual one, but it's actually the amplitude value for each individual one. So if I were to go into the LFO here and turn on the LFO for the low here, wouldn't hear anything because I have set output volume to be off. It's actually more or less the volume. So it's basically this jazz. It's controlling this. And that's pretty much the filter gain. So the cutoff value is applying to all 3 filters, which is kind of awkward because it's a low pass, a high pass, and a band pass, which means that if you have the cutoff of all 3 moving around, you just have the original audio. Except for the fact that I'm controlling the volume level of the low pass with this LFO. I could do that with all 3 of these and come up with some very interesting sort of filter antics, which are very nice. And of course, I could scroll up once and just get a low pass filter, and it'll be just pretty standard: low pass, high pass, low pass 2, band pass, band stop, which is a notch filter, high pass 2, all pass, low shelf, peaking filter, high shelf, peaking being that it's on the line but it's above it, high shelf, low pass 3, which has a drive option, and that's pretty much that. Now each of these filters has alternate resonance bandwidth types, and also has alternate gain staging and freaking filter curves. That's what this is. Yes. You can also have off. You can just turn it off. And you can have the audio pass straight through the filter. And why would you do that? Well, it's because there's also a wave shaper in each of these, audio units is the name of a plugin format. Each of these filter units. And the wave shaper, just like in Citrus, you have this in-out graph that you have, and then you also have a wave shaping mix that you can control, which is pretty straightforward. You can do asymmetry. You have this mix level here, which you can automate. If you wanted to automate it directly, you can also set it to work with one of these modifiers. And like Citrus, you have an X and Y macro controller that you can link a whole bunch of stuff to via the mod X and mod Y modifier tabs, and then you can automate stuff like that. You also have the smooth tab, so that there's internal smoothing or not. There's still going to be internal smoothing, but it's going to be much sharper, sharp enough, and stuff like that. So that's the wave shaping. And then over here we have the out. So let's talk about down here. So we have these parameters. We got pan, volume, cut, res, low, band, high. Wave shaping is not. This isn't parameters. This is just how you make the wave shaper, and then the wave shaping mix. And then we have all these modifiers. The cool part, the draw for the love filter when it first came out is that it has these patterns, and you can actually have 10 individual patterns for any individual parameter. So for volume, I can make an envelope, and then I can have 10 other different ones, and I can automate between the 10 patterns. So this is very good for people who want to like automate randomness kind of thing. So that's pretty handy. This button here turns it on when it's not on. Obviously, it's not going to affect anything. And then this tempo option is pretty sweet. So not only does it snap to the grid, but it also follows position. So like, for example, if I made this a bar long and I started the pattern on, halfway into beat, it'll actually begin this pattern halfway into beat as well. So it'll always be beat synced. The way that you draw it anyway, it'll be synced with start time position and stuff like that. So kind of neat. They built an LFO, which is pretty self-explanatory. Pretty sweet stuff. On-off buttons galore. And we get this thing. We have IEF, which stands for Input Envelope Follower. Now, what this is actually pretty sweet. It's more or less, it's kind of like what the peak controller does, only it's built into the wave shaper. Love filter. So, like, for example, if I went to cut off and I had a filter, let's say low pass on actual on, and I turned on the IEF, because like right now it's steady. So this means that input it's not gonna affect so yeah, okay. So if you look at this graph, you see that the line is straight through the center, and what this means is that input at all levels is going to yield center position of the cutoff value, whatever the cutoff value ends up being. So if I did something like, say, this, you can hear that as the amplitude level of the sound increases, so does the cutoff value. So that's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory once you see it happening. But this can also be a very powerful tool for making like auto wah sounds on sounds. Yeah. Kind of sweet stuff. While we're talking about the envelope follower, I'll take you over here to this sort of master IEF thing over here. And what this does is we have this use one button. And what this means is that every IEF, every envelope follower on all the units you can set them to be different things, but the actual input, the values, the value of the transient that it's tracking to determine the position of any parameter will always be the direct input on input number 1. So like if you had a huge chain, you end up on number 8, and it's like massive filters all over the place, and the audio that's going in is pretty messed up. It's very different from what the original audio was, but you still want the original audio's transients to trigger the IEF in some way, like you're doing a drum track or something. Pretty straightforward when we think of transients. Then you could turn on use one, and then the original audio that's inputting into number 1 will be what triggers the IEF. So that's pretty sweet. You can also set attack and release times for the IEF here, and this will be trigger all of them at once. That's pretty good. Have I missed anything in this part of the thingy? I have not. Very good. I recently did a tutorial on the line editors, which is what these are, and they're pretty much universal for every plugin that has them. So if you missed that tutorial, I suggest you go back and find it. It's called line editors. It was, I think, one I did last week, so it should be pretty easy to find. Now we get over here. So we have this thingy. This is the XY controller, like we said before. And over here is the Fruity Filter logo, which if you click and drag, this happens. Don't know why. Doesn't really do anything. It takes away the XY indicator. You know, fades it out if you want to. And if you hit it, bam. Bam. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah. And over here we have master level, master LFO level, and envelope follower level over here. And these are master controls for macroing all your stuff together. Pretty handy. Handy. Here we have oversampling, which are primarily for filters, is what the manual says. I'm not totally sure what that means, but in my experience, higher levels are not super necessary. Has something to do with aliasing. So if you have like, I don't know, really huge high frequency sounds and you high pass something and with some resonance, some stuff happens and ends up freaking out. Or the wave shaping, I guess that's probably important too. Oversampling oversampling is good. Then we have high accuracy for envelopes, this stuff basically, and centered. We have this is master DC offset removal, which is super important for when you're doing wave shaping stuff, because if you do asymmetrical wave shaping and you have something wacky like this, you can actually see you saw the audio freaked out for a second. That's because I have center on. If I had it off, there would just be a DC offset forever. So that's what the center button does. It fixes that problem. And then we have the preset name, preset details. If you want to type in something, you can. That's what that's for. And yeah, sync pattern changes is this is actually the tempo thing I was talking about. That's what that does. It does it by default. And tempo just shows up the grid, which is what you want, which is important for the LFO. The LFO, when you're using it, because it'll actually snap to time segments, as you can see, it's snapping to usual rhythms and time. If you grab it and move it, you can do this, which is not immediately obvious because you don't really usually don't have reasons to mess with the LFO. But you can also just do crazy stuff like this and make the most wild LFOs, which again is not immediately obvious. So now it is. Now it works. Yes. If you have any questions on any of this, let me know. And also, don't forget that Saturday, which will be another tutorial, is also when the live stream happens. It'll be at 6 p.m. EST, -5 GMT, like it is every week. I don't know if I'm going to have guests, at least not like an artist panel guest like I have been. I want to try see if I can take listener calls, because I have a chat and that's cool, but sometimes it's hard to parse when people are asking questions. So I gotta test some way of seeing if people can actually talk to me and they can be heard on the stream, kind of like a radio show kind of thing. So we'll see how well that works and stuff like that. And then the week after that, I might have AU5 and Fractal back on. So we'll see how that works out. If you had missed that last one, which AU5 and Fractal were on, along with Prismatic, however well they could, because their Skype kept cutting out. That was last week's stream, which the video should be up. That was SeamlessLive 10, I think. As of today, Thursday, that'll be the most recent one anyway. So, if you have any questions about any of that, do let me know. And as usual, have a nice day.